So did you know that Gallup found recently that thriving organization cultures lead to 4 times more revenue than cultures that are not thriving? I was amazed at that amount. Could you imagine 4 times more revenue, what your organization, your business, your company could do with impact, with personnel, and all of that? Well, I'm super excited to tell you about how we can create that thriving culture and actually develop your sweet spot from both the leadership all the way throughout your organization. So I'm Sarah Franciscuti. I am an executive leadership coach and also the host of this Sweet Spot Summit. And so I'm super excited that you're here to listen to my presentation and to join all the incredible speakers that we have all week. So today I wanted to just touch on what a sweet spot is, what that looks like, and then how to create it at 4 different levels within your life and your leadership. First, your own personal energy, yourself, your personal development, your mindset. Then in looking at yourself as a leader, how your communication, how your leadership brand is, then looking at the team level, having a highly engaged team, and then finally looking at your organization. So first I'll introduce myself and then we'll get into the details. So as an executive leadership coach, I've had the honor to work with leaders from across not only the country here where I live in Canada, but across the globe. And I've been a teacher, a speaker, a manager in federal government for almost 20 years now. I'm also a director on a nonprofit board, as well as, of course, running my own coaching business. And so I've had quite a variety of different perspectives into various different sizes of organization with different missions. But I found the themes can be the same sometimes, where organizations, their leaders, their teams are all stuck in survive mode instead of thrive mode. And so what I like to do is actually, my unique style is to work on looking at the inside out. And you'll see the whole summit event has actually been built in this sort of way, by focusing first at our inner being, then at our leadership, then moving into our teams and organizations, like I've mentioned. But first, before we get into that, I want to show you what I've developed. It's a tool called the Thrive Matrix. So I'll just switch and share my screen here. And we can look at this together. So this is a nice visual that you can see that basically demonstrates what I like to call moving from survive mode to thrive mode. So in survive mode, you can see at the far left here with the red, orange, and yellow, that's where people are in that kind of struggling mode. In the yellow zone, people can be nervous, irritable, sensitive, sad, have tired, headaches, energy, decreased social activity, a lot of procrastination. You can see this at work often. Then as we go further deeper into survive mode, that's when anxiety, hopelessness, depression, anger can come in. There can be a lot more physical discomfort, as well as increased performance and conflict. And then further along into the red zone is where people can be hopeless, stuck, depressed, angry. They can feel trapped or like a victim. Then this can show up in the workplace, like fights or completely shutting down or absence from work and sick leave. And my mission is to help leaders and organizations and people across the globe to shift out of this survive mode regularly and into thrive mode. And the more time you spend in thrive mode at all areas of yourself and your organization, the more likely you're going to be able to create this sweet spot zone. So if you can imagine, if you're spending more time in thrive mode, it's going to look more like the green zone here, where performance is productive, people are consistent, active, focused, relaxed, full of energy for the day and extra activities. Sleeping well, they're feeling content, positive, energized, love, joy, fun, lots of relationship positivity. And then as you go further up the thrive mode levels into the blue zone, that's where creativity comes out, self-expression, understanding. There is extra energy. People are inspired. They have more energy, and they are more social, more networking, collaboration, fully present and in the flow, sharing with others. And then even further into the thrive mode is where, in the purple area here, where people are going to be tapping more into their visionary, strategic thinking, higher self. They're more charismatic. They have more connection to their wisdom. They're more imaginative, intuitive. They have clear decision making, make sound decisions, where in contrast, you can imagine in survive mode, the decisions are going to be hasty or poorly thought out, or, coming from the wrong perspective. But in the purple zone, this is more where there's going to be that big picture, strategic, visionary thinking that all of you here are naturally looking for. And that's why you're part of the summit. So I just wanted to share this with you because I wanted to explore the idea of having that thrive mode happen in all areas of your leadership and your organization. So if you can keep that kind of concept in mind of being in the survive mode or thrive mode, what I want to talk to you about is 2 points on each of the 4 levels. So the first one around personal energy is really about looking at, where is your energy at a day-to-day? Are you kind of hanging out in that orange and yellow zone, which I know a lot of leaders are, just from day-to-day meetings and back-to-back requirements and staffing situations and on and on. And that's okay, but there are things we can do to move you more into thriving zone regularly, because leaders need to be strategic and visionary to move their teams and their organizations forward. But so often with the people that I work with, they are struggling with getting to that strategic, visionary thinking state more regularly. So by being aware of where you're at, you can deliberately do things to develop that, like taking more self-care, taking time for your mindset, working on your personal development, all of those types of things, doing the basics like eating, sleeping, exercise, all of that good stuff. The second point would be around the viewpoint, which I've already kind of mentioned, is, are you feeling kind of overwhelmed and burnt out and kind of like there's too much? Or are you feeling inspired regularly? Are you feeling like you've got this big picture strategic vision? And are you leading from that visionary state? Because that's where things can really transform really quickly, and it can be a lot of fun. So those are 2 areas that you could look at in your personal level that could be shifted to get you more into that thriving zone regularly. The second level I want to talk to you about is that leadership level. And so 2 points that I wanted to use as an example for this Thrive matrix is around the communication. So are you communicating regularly? Are you encouraging your team to be highly engaged and develop themselves and contribute? Or are you focusing only on tasks? Are you focusing only on deadlines? Are you sharing that anxious, surviving energy with your team? Or are you coming from a place of connection, a place of visionary oneness, and let's all do this together? That can make a massive difference in how your leadership impact is received. A second point would be around focusing on strengths and not on the errors or the mistakes or the things that aren't getting done, but focusing more on the positives about the strengths within your team, the celebrating your achievements, and those types of things will continue to build and grow that more thrive side of things. And then the third level will be around your team. So how engaged is your team? I was really surprised recently when I discovered that Gallup found that 34% of an annual salary of a burnt out employee is lost due to burnout and disengagement. And so if you imagine you had an employee at $60,000 a year, I'm talking Canadian numbers, but you just use this as an example, 34% of that wage would be $20,400. Now, that would be just one employee, but it's found that 17.2% of an organization is actively disengaged. So if you take that amount of money for one employee, times it by 17, for an organization that has 100 people, that loss could be around $346,000 a year. And now if you expand it to an organization of 1,000 people, that would be up to $3,508,800 a year, just 1 year. And that's only for an organization of 1,000. So if it was 10,000, 20,000 or more, you can see how the numbers can grow drastically. And so I wanted to share that with you, first of all, because it just blew my mind. And it really highlights the importance of focusing on your leadership and how it's impacting your team, and whether maybe you're a disengaged employee or leader, and that's okay. But there are things that we can do to help get you re-engaged again, or get your organization and your teams to be engaged. And that's really builds back onto the previous things that we talked about: showing up as your thriving self already, communicating from that big picture visionary self, focusing on the strengths of your team and highlighting them and empowering them to bring their genius to work every day. That's where the magic can really start happening in a team, is you have this authentic communication that you're creating as a leader in your team, and then you bring that best out of your people that are working with you. The other area that you can look at on the team piece to measure sort of how things are going is how innovative are your staff members? Do they avoid change? Are they resistant? Are they actively, pushing against anything that's changing in your organization? Or are they actively seeking opportunities to grow? Are they creating and innovating new ways to work? So we can encourage these things to create more thriving energy, and that creates a sweet spot, magical, sort of amazing thing happening within your team and your organization. So the fourth level is really around the organization level. So that would be looking, like an example to see sort of how you're doing on that thrive zone would be whether you're struggling with retention, whether you have people leaving and not keeping people in your organization, or perhaps you have an engaged organization and your retention is fairly stable. That would be maybe around the green zone. But if you're looking at that thrive area, that would be more when you actually have stable personnel, and now you can start looking at contributing to volunteering within your community as part of a work experience. Or perhaps even further along the spectrum in that thrive zone would be really having positive corporate social responsibility and really giving back and being highly aware of those levels of impact that your organization is having. So it's going to be really fun to sort of see where you are at today and what area that you can be focusing on things to build further. And then the other piece along the organization level would be around diversity, and it kind of taps in similar to the change piece. But how are things going within your organization? Are most people resistant to perhaps increasing diversity or an inclusion, or perhaps there's some openness to it? Around that thriving area would be perhaps proactively seeking for these opportunities to grow and expand our diversity and inclusion, and to really look inwards to see how can we as an organization do better and be more inclusive here. Perhaps you are already strong in the area, and if you're not, another level would be to be actually a leader in diversity and inclusion in your industry. And so you can see this sort of concept that I'm wanting to get across to you here is to really create and discover and find that sweet spot for you and your teams and your organization. It really comes down to building that thrive level regularly at multiple different levels within your day-to-day, so that you really are truly creating that sweet spot for you that aligns with you as your own personal wellness is going extremely well, you're thriving as a human being. Then you bring that into your leadership, and that has a ripple effect into your team. And then you can bring that into your organizations fully across the board as you look at more of the bigger organism of the organization. And so I'm really excited to share this all with you. I hope that you found something interesting as you're moving through this concept of getting out of survive mode and into thrive mode in all the different areas of your leadership and your organization. So if you're interested in exploring this idea further, I have a fun little guide that I use called the Inside Out Scheduling Guide. And that is all around that first step, that getting your own personal energy to that thriving level regularly. And that comes down to the basics of setting time for self-care, for white space so you can be strategic thinking more often, creating space to connect with your team members, having that authentic communication, all of those types of pieces first before you get into that organizational impact. Because if you are in survive mode, that is not going to have the positive impact that you want to have your leadership and your organization. So focusing first on yourself, can have a massive transformational difference in everything that you do thereafter. So I invite you to explore that below. I'll also link the Thrive Matrix. If you want to download that, you can check that out and use that as a tool for your own personal self-awareness within your teams. It can be useful just to say, hey, I'm kind of having a yellow day today, or I've noticed, I'm kind of feeling orange, so I'm going to take a day off, or whatever that's going to be. Or you can say, hey, look at how we're doing. We've been kind of hanging out in the green blue zone. And so you can notice what's been going well there and how to amplify that. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, is this sort of introduction to this concept. And if you're looking to explore more, just let me know. You're all part of the summit, so you're now here in the Exhale and Thrive community with me. But if you want to check anything out further, I'll link my website below and you can explore that. And I hope that you enjoy this incredible summit. It's been such an honor to connect with all of the amazing speakers and to help create this experience for you of looking at all these different levels of your leadership, so that you can really be thriving in all areas, so you can have a powerfully positive global impact. So thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoy all the rest of the speakers, and I look forward to connecting with you all soon.